item number 43. Discussion and direction regarding potential water system consolidation between the City of Livingston and Floyd A. Schelby Elementary School. Anthony?
Yeah, that's me again, Council. And this is another discussion and direction item regarding a potential water system consolidation between the City of Livingston and Floyd A. Schelby Elementary School. I do want to point out that we do have a couple of representatives, one from Self-Help Enterprises and one from Merced County Office of Education. I did summarize this staff report in a PowerPoint as well. A little bit of background about Floyd A. Schelby Elementary School. They're located outside of the city limits with about a student population of 130. Relies on private wells for drinking water and landscape irrigation. They are out of compliance for 123 TCP maximum contaminant level. They're seeking ways to mitigate water requirements through a water system consolidation with the city. Self-Help Enterprises has indicated the State Water Board would participate in construction of a new well. State Water Board would complete the water infrastructure for connecting the school to the city as well, the conveyance infrastructure. More background on the city. Currently, it's been challenging to meet the water demands during the summer months. We are in need of new wells to keep the water system fully functional. All of the existing city wells produce raw water that exceed the 123 TCP MCL. Currently implementing citywide 123 TCP projects. Recently authorized the construction of a new well, well 18, to help offset the increased water demands. To accommodate unexpected water demands from the Schelby Elementary School, the city would need to construct a new water well, which would most likely include treatment facilities such as arsenic and 123 TCP. City staff has identified the cost for drilling new wells that would need treatment, and that's approximately $13 million. The benefits and disadvantages of a consolidation agreement. The benefits are a new water source, which we all know is going to be increased water supply for the city, added system reliability, state funding contribution. Some disadvantages would be increased O&M cost and out-of-boundary service connection. Possible actions that the council may take this evening. One, would the council like to direct staff to enter into discussions with Schelby School and Self-Help Enterprises to obtain additional details on what a consolidation agreement would entail. There would be costs associated with these discussions to review documents and staff time to attend meetings. Two, would the council like to direct staff to contact the Schelby School once the City of Livingston water supply issues have been addressed? And number three, other council direction. That concludes the PowerPoint.
So, a couple of questions, and then also just for clarification, I think some of the language is already there in the presentation and in the report, but I just like to make sure that that is clarified. So the cost would be roughly about $13 million, and it would be covered by the state, correct?
Well, those are all
estimates.
Would have to be, those estimates is $13 million. We know is if there's arsenic that needs to be treated, TCP. But as far as what's covered, I mean, those details would have to be discussed in more detail with the state and
okay.
Self-help. And
because then there's also that cost, not just the well part of it and then the filtration system, depending on what kind of chemicals need to be cleaned up there, but also the connecting part of it. There's a cost that has to be incurred to connect from the city to the school. that cost, do we know, or still part of those conversations that you're talking about?
Yeah, that would have to be discussed, and we could look a little further into that if that's what council would like to give direction on. But self-help is here, and they may have some of that information if you would like a self-help to come forward and answer any questions that council may have.
Because then my other question, but then again, I think you already answered, but was, depending on how much water is produced there, and if the school uses, I don't know, 20%, does the city have to pay the other? So if the cost, let's just use $10 million, and the school is going to use only 20%, then does the city have to consider that because the city is going to use the other 80%, does the city have to pay 80% of the cost?
Yeah, those are great questions, but a little preliminary to really answer that right now. We would have to have further discussions.
Is there, okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Juan Connell with Self-Help Enterprises. My team is the one providing the technical assistance through the state water board funding under the SAFER program. And so some of these questions you guys asked, any project cost that City of Livingston would incur for the planning of this particular project is reimbursable. So any costs you guys incur doing the actual work as the planning project would be reimbursable with the construction application. Any costs that you guys would incur, like as in a well or construction cost to provide water to the Schelby school, will also be covered by the grant funding. Now, the question you asked regarding, if we have a well that produces a certain capacity and the school needs a certain percentage of that, not all of it, then the grant funding would cover the cost that would be provided to the school. The other cost would be up to the City of Livingston. However, it would be something like a low interest loan or a zero interest loan from the state to cover the cost of that particular excess capacity that the City of Livingston would be using. So it would definitely cover the cost of the construction of the well. That covers all the school's needs. Everything else would be covered by grant funding by the state. You guys wanted to go that route.
And so with that said, that grant process coming from the city, it still has to be, is it going to go through the regular or through a process where it has to be identified if it qualifies, or do we know that because of the situation that it's in, it's just pretty much, yes, it's approved, just send us the paperwork and...
Right. Right now, we're in the middle of the planning projects with the Schelby at this point. And so when we get to the construction part of this, and let's say we do consolidate with City of Livingston, the funding would be guaranteed. It would be grant funding for that particular project. Like I said, anything over that, and that'd be discussions that we have specifically with the state about capacity over what is needed through Schelby, that would be discussed with the state. But yeah, it is a fully grant funded project because you are consolidating with a system that's disadvantaged in a school.
So I guess one of the advantages would be that the city would have access to additional water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And another incentive that the state provides for consolidating is you guys can also use your own grant funding to cover a project of your own that doesn't have anything to do with the Schelby consolidation as well. So if there's something else you guys are interested in, maybe storage or something of that nature, the state can provide grant funding. Or if you guys don't meet the requirements for grant funding, it'll be like a zero interest loan for any kind of projects you guys have to do with the state on that end as well.
Okay. Council, any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Wallace.
Mr. Mayor, Anthony, going back to the other committee, fire suppression for the Schelby School. Now, that's something that's coming up anyway because of their water supply. Now, if we hook up with them to the school, their current well, we would want to make sure that maintains their landscaping. Now, is that enough if they keep that old well that's there now? Would that handle their fire suppression? Although it's a mitigated thing because unless there's a fire, it's never going to go off anyway. But I'm just curious if that been thought of at the same time.
Yeah, those are pretty tough questions to answer at this moment right now. Those are all issues that'll need to be addressed at the time of if council would like us to communicate with them.
Council member and mayor and council, I think Anthony did a really good job of laying out the policy implications here. And really, we didn't feel like it was appropriate to allocate expenditures of engineering, public works staff time for something that the council may not see as a priority. So we know that our priorities have been, well 8A, well 18, some of these other high priority items. Obviously, when everything is a priority, nothing becomes a priority. So we wanted to make sure that the council weighed in from the council policy level perspective on whether they wanted us to prioritize this item. So Anthony's exactly right. These are all great questions. Councilmember Wallace brought up, the mayor brought up. I know we talked yesterday, I think it was yesterday, about some of these items. There are a lot more great questions too. We didn't want to allocate so much staff time that this became a priority without consulting with council first. So a lot of these questions we don't have the answers to yet because we didn't want to get ahead of the council without council formally providing the direction to staff. So I think Anthony did a good job of laying out the policy implications here.
So, I mean, I think it's a great project, but I'm also kind of thinking about all of the other projects that we have, that are water related. So which one, this will be another project or would be another project to the other water projects. Which one is going to be priority number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 10? So just something to think about. You wanted to add something else?
If I could just address that one item you were saying about the time that you need for engineering for this particular project. Like I was saying earlier, this is a SAFER grant-funded project right now under the TA SAFER program. And right now, all engineering work is covered by that funding source. So we're not asking for much engineering from the city at this point. Participation would be more of reviewing the documents, making sure that if we're meeting city standards on engineering reports, plan specifications for the project, secret documentation, things like that. But we won't be asking you guys to take a lead on any of that at this point. You guys will be more in the review process. Now, if it comes time to construction, it'll be a different conversation, but in this particular project we're doing now, there wouldn't be a whole lot of engineering we'll be asking from the city.
Thank you for providing that. Council? Did I already went out for public comment? Not yet? Okay, so perfect opportunity to go out for public comment. 9:26, is there any public comment on the phone in regards to this item?
Yes.
Go ahead, you have 3 minutes. Can you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Elvira Reyes. I am representing the Division of Drinking Water, the Safer Southern Engagement Unit. The Division of Drinking Water supports the consolidation with the City of Livingston as a long-term solution for the school. We would appreciate your approval on item 43 of the agenda to enter discussion with your staff. And I just wanted to highlight that right now we're working on the engineering report. So the goal would be to lay out all the technicalities and be able to ensure that we address all the comments that the city has, which has already a little bit been highlighted with fire suppression, what happens to the well, what does funding look like, and just be able to provide all the information for council to make a decision if this is something they're interested in the future construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments on the phone in regards to this item? Bringing it back to the chamber at 9:27. Any comments? Please come forward, state your name for the record.
Diego Castillo. The question I would have, because he's saying this would be a fully grant program, is on the development side, when self-help enterprise helps or brings water into disadvantaged community, it's like a home run for a developer or for a community. So would that be similar to this? I know I'm thinking of a town that just got a grant for storage in a well, and it was covered, I believe, 100% by a grant. So, for example, I know here in the city we have issues with obviously meeting our water demand during the summer. But if you can incorporate, let's say, the well that the school would need, and then maybe add some additional storage, I believe the storage could be the solution for that peak season of water where we're having issues, and then that would also open up some of the other things that we haven't been able to do, like development, which would bring in more revenue for the city and would help maybe fund some of these other projects. My question would be, because the city has just got awarded a grant for $27 million, by them participating in this type of program with self-help, is there a disadvantage to the city, or does that allow them not to apply for any additional funding like they are currently going after?
No, participating or not in this particular program or in this particular consolidation project wouldn't, affect the city's ability to apply for other grants through the State Water Board. But the State Water Board does prioritize consolidations, and then they do provide, like I said, incentive funding for those entities that take on those smaller systems.
So does that mean they get a higher score for does the city get like points or a score for participating on programs like these when they go out for grants, or no?
No, not a higher score. Sorry, no, not a higher score, but again, they do take this into account when you're, it's like a score wouldn't be the right way to say it, but they do take into account that you guys were consolidating with a disadvantaged community or a school that needed the water source. Yeah.
So would there be any disadvantage to the city or anything you can think of that wouldn't be to the benefit of the city for participating for something like this?
Most of the engineering, most of the work for this particular project is taken care of by our engineers for our work. The disadvantage is the city staff would have to review some documentation and do a little bit of work at this point. But the review is pretty minimal compared to the work that the engineers are doing for our particular project. I can't think of any disadvantages on my mind, but if you guys have something specific to ask me, I can definitely answer that. But in my mind, I don't see any disadvantages at this point.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like I said, on the development world, this is not normally a home run as a development, or even taking development out of it. Most cities like this type of partnership with self-help because it covers 100% of the grant, or it covers, most of the time it's 100% of the cost. And if you don't get 100% of the cost, then you get a 0% interest loan. So you can't ask for anything better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Jabjeet. Really like the, it looks good, looks really good. I know Diego had some of the same questions that I had. Like the idea of helping a school, obviously. So I like the direction it's going, but Mr. Brown, you brought up a concern that I think it's fair, Anthony. I kind of wanted to ask you and Mr. Lopez a little bit too. Chris, if you have any comments on this. Obviously, we just approved the well project recently. Just got $27 million in funding. Gonna start moving on that pretty soon here. I like the idea that we're moving forward a lot faster now because it feels like we've been stagnant, but let's just say 6 months from now or whatever the timeline is after discussions are had, we decide that we want to move forward with this. If all these projects are going on at once, do we have the adequate capacity to make sure that everything's being done right, get all of your other work done, and get everything done effectively in the event that all of this is going on together with our other wells?
I'll respond to a portion of that. Typically in the construction, especially projects of this scope, there's project management built into the grant funding. And so usually that's allocated so that, it's not necessarily staff that's monitoring it. Rather, it's, a specific designated person who's responsible for construction management. One, it saves staff time, and then two, it can be covered 100% by the grant funding. So that's likely going to be the case with this particular project because it is directly connected to the State Water Board.
Right, okay.
I think, Mayor, if it's okay, I think those are all great questions. For me, the big question that we always have is how much do we have on the plate? And I look at the projects that we have right now. Anthony has a report that'll be provided to the council probably in the next couple weeks or so. We've got a number of developers right now that are wanting to move forward on developments in the community now, and we're unable to because we don't have the adequate water capacity. So for me right now, the most sense for the city of Livingston proper is to move forward on well 8A, well 18, and making sure that we've got all of the resources allocated to make sure that moves forward. So that is absolutely my top priority for the city of Livingston at this moment in time. Incorporating this project, I think it's a great idea. I think it is a legitimate concept. The question that I do have, though, is how much time gets taken away from non-allocation towards whether it's well 8A, well 18, or the priority of keeping our system operational and running. We had a conversation this morning with the engineering team, the public works team, the development team, on what we can do to get just this capacity moving in the city. So that's my question. You know, adding this project would, obviously you can't do everything 100% of the time. So this is time that gets taken away from other projects in the city. And that's just the reality of it. And that's just me being truthful and straightforward on how things operate.
Right, yeah. Thanks for that. That's what I wanted. Question then for maybe a gentleman from Self-Help is if the city decides not to move on this today, in terms of sitting down and figuring out a plan, is there a deadline that we have by when we'd have to get this moving? Is there like an ideal time frame for you all? Maybe we come back in a few months and we decide to get on the table.
Thank you. Yeah, no, right now we are at the stage of the preliminary engineering report. We're trying to make a decision. We're at a fork in the road. How do we move forward on this particular project for Schelby? And so let's say that we're unsuccessful and City of Livingston does not decide to participate in the planning project, then we're trying to discuss a new alternative for that school. When you're talking about something like 123 TCP contaminations, as you guys probably know, treatment is expensive and unaffordable, especially if you're a small entity like a school who doesn't have any ratepayers to cover the cost. And so it'll be difficult for us to figure out what to do next with Schelby, but we'll have to look at other alternatives. And then we'll be working with the state and all the other engineering that we're working with, the project engineers, to figure out what's happening next. But I don't have an answer for you what the exact answer, what we could do then. But what might happen is we might approach you all again in the future with some more information from the State Water Board about what we can provide for you all to incentivize this project. Other than that, like I said, it would be a lot more investigations and evaluations of alternatives for this system, which could be ongoing for a long time.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Mayor, I did receive an email back on October 15 from Elvira Reyes, who spoke, and she did provide a public comment by email. I just want to put that on the record.
Thank you. Mr. Santos?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little clarity to the public. At this point, we're not approving or rejecting. It's basically get direction from council to go and gather more information to come back so the council can make a decision at some time in the future whether to do a consolidation.
So, question. I think you answered part of my question was, what is Plan B or Plan C? I heard like, we're not sure yet, maybe. But if the city decides to say, let's just start that preliminary conversation, and considering some of the other items that we have already on our plate, would you be, or would whoever's on that side be okay with working with us in regards to, this is not going to happen like, quick as we wanted it to be, but we do, saying like we do want to figure something out, but kind of bear with us and let's take it maybe, not 50 miles an hour, but I don't know, 45, 30 miles an hour. I mean, is that,
Yeah.
what will you, I mean, what would you guys say to that?
So, the consolidation with City of Livingston is the most feasible alternative to address the contamination issues for Schelby School. And so right now, what we are asking is just for participation in this engineering report to review the document and provide comments to us at this point. And once we finalize that engineering report with the comments of the City of Livingston, we'll be able to provide that information to you guys. You guys have an engineering document that has a project estimate. It'll give you specifics about what the project is asking for, as well as any kind of impacts to the school or to the city. So you guys will, at this point, not commit to consolidation, but participate in the planning process. And then at that point, you guys can actually have the document, see some real information, numbers, data, and you guys can make a decision at that point. So it is kind of a slow process. I think you guys will, at the very beginning, if you guys choose to move forward with us, just kind of provide us information and data that we can include into a complete report, and then you guys can have that and make a decision on what you guys would like to do next at that point. So we're probably talking a few months from now that you guys we'll be asking you guys to make a decision if you guys want to participate in actual consolidation. At this point, we're just asking for some information and data sharing between each other.
All right. Council, any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, can we have the screen with the three options back up, please, Monica? Or Anthony? Personally, I like option number one. The benefits, I think, of us getting an extra water supply in the future, the state and everybody's going to help funding this. I think it's to the benefit of Livingston, the way our water system, we're still going to pursue for our other wells, but I think option number one would be the one to at least enter into the discussions and see what the costs associated, review those documents, and the council next year can make a final decision. But if we're going to think about it, we need to start that process. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
So, I think that there's something we can do here, and I think there's some benefits to everybody involved. Obviously, if we can get a full grant, then we don't have to pay for it. That'll be better, right? It doesn't hurt to ask, right? But I'm hoping that it doesn't add too much to our plate or to our staff, a lot more than what they already have. But I would ask, I think I do want to support this. I will second this, but at the same time, hopefully just take it one step at a time, and hopefully we can bring it back when it's appropriate and we can look at it again. But I will second that motion. So we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Wallace, second by myself. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Wallace?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Sorry, I meant to ask this question. Down here below on the staff report, I realize there's a motion on the floor, but pursuing this project will allow the city of Livingston to leverage any available local funds should it be necessary. What in particular was that reference towards, Anthony? Page 2 of 3.
It's just stating that we could use our reserves and capital or water enterprises to augment funds if we were to be liable for funds. But if it's granted, no match.
Okay. It's a hard toss-up, but seeing in the future if it expands our water infrastructure, then it's a great concept, but as it stands right now with some of the things that were discussed here, you know, we are in a hard place with our water, but seeing that this is something for our future, it's not going to hurt us for members of this council or staff to enter into like a discussion. So when it comes to the hard conversation, that would be up to future councils to come to, but just to look into the ideas and see what you can come up with, even with your alternatives. If you find a better alternative, by all means, but working with our neighbors. Schelby School has many of our students that attend there. So, yes. Was that roll call?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mayor Moran?
Yes,
Motion passes by a vote of 3-0.
thank you. So next at 9.